Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I'm Ron Luce, joined tonight by the one and the only Mr. Joe Maris. Joe, unfortunately, the Cubs got walked off, but it was a hell of a game, so we are going to have some fun talking about this. But before we get into everything, how are you doing, sir?
I'm okay. Brennan Davis hit 2 homers last night.
That he did. I was going to say, Cody and I definitely enjoyed talking fairly heavily about the future of the Cubs and Brennan Davis kind of being that leader of said future. It was a nice night. He was also, I believe, 2 for 2 to start the night again tonight with 2 singles, if I remember seeing that correctly on Twitter.
Beautiful.
So a little Brennan Davis update. He looks just fine at AAA. I think he's going to be okay, folks.
Yeah.
But we do have quite a game to talk about because even though the Cubs lost, they made it interesting because it was 3-0 Phillies after the bottom of the 4th finally when the scoring started. A 2-run home run from Galvis and some other crazy double play shenanigans ultimately gives them that 3-0 lead like we mentioned. But the legend of Frank Schwindel continues, Joe, because that homer scores him and Duffy, 1-run game. Real Muto, his single then in the bottom of the 5th, makes it a 2-run game again. And then Robinson Chirinos, his 5th of the season, makes it tied at 4-4. But then, of course, back and forth. JT Real Muto hit his 15th in the next half inning. And then in the next half inning, Matt Duffy tied the game, all for a pass ball in the bottom of the 9th to be the reason that the Cubs get walked off in Philadelphia. So we don't normally read the summary, but I feel like that scoring summary is important because even though the Cubs were down at multiple points, they clawed back. And again, kind of a season of silver linings at this point, in the second half of 2021, Joe, it feels like that's an okay thing that the Cubs will take because good performance from Duffy tonight, good performance from Ian Happ, good performance from a number of other guys really was something to be happy about in tonight's game. So, Joe, do you agree with me on that? Like, does that make tonight's loss a little easier, or does it just still suck in general?
It's both. I mean, losses, especially when you kind of clawed yourself back multiple times, those hurt. And we've seen that happen a few times where the Cubs have been able to rally back, but end up falling just a bit short. Mm-hmm. But I think the sentiment of just watching these guys claw back, time and time again, it makes the game fun to watch, even if they do come up short like tonight. So I mean, it's more encouraging than discouraging, and it is what it is. Like the wins and losses don't matter. Obviously, it would have been great to get this win, or at least send it into extras. But
right,
it's not going to haunt anybody except maybe Trevor McGill.
Yeah. That ain't that the damn truth. And again, we've talked about McGill at different points on this show throughout the season. Like he'll show those flashes. You see what's there and why the Cubs like him the way they do and want to give him these opportunities. But it's just sometimes he's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde with his command, it feels like. And especially when you're 6'8", I think he is. I mean, he's literally the Jolly Green Giant on the mound. You want, if he could get more consistency as hard as he throws, like, he would be a nice bullpen piece. I'm not saying he's going to be, the next Craig Kimbrell or something, but he's a nice bullpen piece that you still need to win ball games. And Joe, I agree with you. I mean, just that clawing yourself back into games thing, you do it so many times and you're like, well, hey, we kept doing it. But at the same time, you're just like, damn it. You know what I mean? Like, can we get this done? Because, I mean, Mills kind of had finally a rough outing this year. I mean, he's looked really good lately. I feel like he's been touched up a little bit, and I feel like with a guy like him, that's going to just be natural sometimes. But again, as your 5th starter, he's giving you something that you can at least ride with and deal with on a day-to-day basis. But today, only 4 2/3, 6 hits, but those 4 earned runs, only walks 2, but he struck out 4. So not a great night from Mills, but not an awful night, given that the Cubs were able to claw themselves in and the offense was able to wake up. So I guess I want to know, Joe, what were your thoughts? How did you feel so far on the Mills start? Because tonight I felt like he was okay. He gave you at least what you needed to stick in the ball game. But, like, I think we've seen what he can do, especially recently. And I feel like, he really had a bit of an off night.
Right. I mean, Alec Mills is my guy. I think this is probably like 6 straight starts for Alec Mills that I've been on the postgame show for. I love everything he does. But tonight he just, all in all, didn't have it. At the least, you would have liked him to finish the 5th inning, but just didn't happen tonight. He just didn't really have it. That happens, especially with he's a back end of the rotation type, regardless. So these are some things you just come to expect every once in a while.
Yeah,
and it happened tonight.
It sure did, and it's unfortunate. It really is because, we're sitting here and we're just like, oh, you want to see that progression out of Alec Mills, I think is really what we're trying to get at. And unfortunately, I wouldn't say it's a step back, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on. You hope that he doesn't finish out the rest of the season because I think he's going to get at least one more start, maybe two, before this thing's all over. So you would at least like him to maybe find a way to get back on track a little bit in those last two starts or so, and come out with better efforts. But again, F. Ross bails him out and gets out of that fifth inning, so he continues to be a nice piece so far. Adbert Alzolay had a pretty good showing out of the pen, 2 innings, 2 hits, and a strikeout for him. Realistically, Cody Hoyer, I mean, the only thing that literally the first pitch, that's all. It was just the first pitch. Otherwise, he looked fine. Obviously, ultimately, originally gave up the lead. Looked like he was in trouble, but then Duffy bailed him out. And then you mentioned Migo in just 2/3 of an inning gives up that game-winning run, for the Phillies to walk it off on the passed ball. So, again, I would say overall from the bullpen, a night you have to be pleased with, right, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I have been just thinking about lately is the way that the Cubs have been pitching Alzolay. He has come out of the bullpen only or exclusively since he returned from the injured list, and each time he's gotten multiple innings. So I'm just kind of what do you think the Cubs are kind of going for with him now? Like, I said, they're like, all right, you're out of the rotation even for next year, or is this just like, let's just work you back here? Because I'm confused. I think he's done extremely well out of the bullpen right now for multiple innings. Why not give him another start? Especially Keegan Thompson's on the IL. Why is – I mean, Samson's doing a great job too, so it's not like he deserves to be bumped out. But why is Alzolay pitching in the bullpen still is a little confusing to me.
Yeah, I will second that, Joe, because he's looked great. I mean, ever since he came back off the IL, he's looked really, really good. And, I'm wondering if it's maybe just not the pressure of starting a game, perhaps, that makes him feel a little better coming out of the pen or what. But I really, at least personally, I don't know if this is true or not true, but I think it's just to limit innings. I don't think they want him to throw a ton of innings. But kind of to your point, like if he's going to come out and do multiple innings out of the pen, like what's the difference of just not starting him? And I don't know if this is maybe a tryout and saying, hey, like, are you truly better out of the pen? Are you our, multi-inning guy of the future, but you're going to be elite out of the pen for multi-innings? Like a guy that can throw maybe, 2 nights more than once or twice in a week? Like, do we see that out of Alzolay? Who knows? Because, like, I think back just a couple games ago, I think he mowed through 4 innings on like 47 pitches.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. His first appearance back was in Minnesota.
Yes.
4 innings. I'm not seeing
that was the
number of pitches, but 5 Ks, only 1 hit.
And he got the save that game.
Right.
Yeah, that was the crazy 4-inning save. Yeah, right. If I remember correctly, I think it was under 50 pitches, which if that's the case, like I think he's showing he's really efficient out of the bullpen too. And maybe that's something they want him just to work on out of the pen is, hey, work on your efficiency. Because I feel like at times in games, especially early, he gets really behind and things don't work out. Maybe this is an exercise of like, hey, for the rest of the season, just work on your efficiency. Try and go as long as you can in a game out of the pen, but work on that efficiency. So that way maybe next season then you feel comfortable putting him back in the rotation. I have to think he at least gets another shot in the rotation because, like he's due.
Right. There's no reason not to. And he 49 pitches in that appearance in Minnesota. So right, you nailed it. Yeah, I mean, he's only given up 1 run out of the bullpen so far. Tonight was his 4th appearance. Each have been multiple innings. His shortest was an inning and 2/3. He's done really well out of the bullpen. But like you mentioned, maybe it's something where he's not feeling the pressure of being a starter. Maybe he feels like the way he works his pitches, his sequencing is better out of the bullpen because they don't have to worry about facing a guy a 3rd time or even a 2nd time. Who knows? I mean, that's something that I'm sure him and the pitching staff will talk about in the offseason. but he's got great stuff. I mean, we've been seeing it all year. He's got good stuff, but he gets himself into trouble a lot. And and when he gets himself in trouble, a lot of balls end up in the bleachers. So that's something that's, I'm sure is being addressed, but I think he deserves another shot. I mean, I don't know why he shouldn't start another game before the end of the season. I mean, you think he's throwing 50 plus pitches in his appearances out of the bullpen. He doesn't get that same preparation coming out of the bullpen that he does when he's a starter. A starter, they're taking 30 minutes to get ready for the game.
Mm-hmm.
And coming out of the bullpen, I mean, yeah, you keep yourself loose, but it's nothing compared to getting yourself ready before a start. So I wonder maybe if even that has some effect on him too. Mentally, it's just get ready, go. Who knows?
Yeah. No, that's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up because it really is the case, right? Like everybody works differently. Maybe this is just them trying to learn more about Alzolay and, like you said, kind of how comfortable he feels, whether it's on short preparation or longer preparation or whatever. And then maybe at least you can help him develop a routine as a starter, maybe that more benefits kind of his style, I guess. So very deep and interesting way of looking at it, I will admit, and maybe that is the case. I guess we'll find out more, but certainly a guy that you'd like to see back in the rotation again, if not in the next 2 weeks, obviously to finish the season, for sure. In spring training and hopefully in 2022. But I mean, again, man, this was such a weird game because like the Cubs had offense. I mean, only 8 hits, but again, the 5 runs. Certainly, kept things interesting. You got big nights out of guys like Chirinos, also threw out Harper on the base paths.
Yeah.
We mentioned Ian Happ, technically 0 for 4, but again, a run scored for him tonight. Schwindel, just I really, 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 really hope that Frank Schwindel is giving Billy Beane all the nightmares right now because, again, he's like the perfect Oakland A's player, right? Like, for what they do, and everybody that's seen Moneyball, the GIF got tweeted from Cubs on Tap. I'm sure everybody knew who that was. Sue me. But like, why would Billy Beane like Frank Schwindel? Because he gets on base. Like, it's literally the idea of maximizing a player. Like, he fits kind of the Moneyball era in a sense because he is this pure hitter, which I think we're starting to see make a comeback in baseball. Right? It's not just power or nothing. Or power walk or nothing. Like, not everybody's Yasmani Grandal anymore, which kind of makes him a fun unicorn, truly, in baseball. But he doesn't strike out a lot. So even if he gets out, his on base is not astronomically, insanity higher like it is with a guy like Grandal compared to his average. But he isn't striking out a lot. So he's putting the ball in play. And that's the key, right? He feels just like a fundamental baseball player that just does the fundamentals really well. And really, I don't think that's a crime, but I mean, just you gotta love seeing the legend continue tonight, a double and a home run. This is. Are we gonna call it like a Schwindel hat trick? Like if he has some late inning RBI, like in the 6th inning or later, a home run and a double each night. You know what I mean? Like a little baseball Cubs version of the Gordie Howe hat trick in hockey. Like, because that seems like this dude's trend is like, or like no strikeouts. And actually, let me confirm if he did strike out tonight. No, he didn't strike out tonight. So yeah, is the Schwindel hat trick a 0 strikeout game with a home run and a double? Because that's what it's really starting to feel like, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I think your point about him being the perfect Moneyball player is just a really great way to describe him. You think so? Who do you think? It's obvious around Cubs Twitter, but the number one guy that Cubs fans want the Cubs to go get in this offseason is Nick Castellanos.
1,000%.
If you can't get Nick Castellanos, you're not technically replacing him, but what's a way to make him up? It's guys like Frank Schwindel. It's not him alone.
Right.
But Frank Schwindel kind of is like, the way he's playing right now is a mini Castellanos, high average, but he's still high power.
Yeah.
And Castellanos, very average strikeout guy. So it's guys like that. That's how you make up that production without having guys like Castellanos in your lineup. Obviously, we don't know if this can continue to next season, but there's ways they can. You put them into positions to succeed, which right now is you just put them in the lineup every day, which is awesome. But in the future, that's facing left-handed pitching, giving him good matchups to continue to rake like he is. So I'm looking forward to see what he can do for the Cubs next year, because I don't see a reason why he's not in a Cub uniform for next season in some form or fashion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think especially in 2022, right? It almost feels like, based on what the Cubs are going to have for the future, that maybe Schwindel is a good piece to have, at least for 2022, because I think about that top of that order. You wrote a great article today. We're going to plug it. The information that came out via Redline Radio, which is Barstool Chicago's podcast, about Chris Bryant not closing the door, and Jed Hoyer also saying the same thing. So think about maybe if a Chris Bryant reunion happens, maybe Castellanos sees that and says, hey, I'll come play with Chris, and maybe he comes too. Let's just, for fun of hypotheticals, if you're looking for a high average but powerful top of your lineup, I don't see an issue having heavy contact guys like Madrigal and Horner in like the 1 and 2 holes, or even if you bat Horner down a little lower, maybe in like a 6 hole. But then your 2 through 5, 3 through 6 type combo is Bryant, Castellanos, maybe Brennan Davis, and say a Frank Schwindel. Then you have 4 guys really in there that have the ability to probably hit somewhere between 265 and 290, at least consistently, and drive in runs if you got guys like Madrigal getting on base, maybe Horner, if again they go the 1-2 versus the 1-6 type model, and even guys lower in your rotation, especially if the DH comes to the NL, right? You have guys that you could bat a Madrigal or even a Horner lower in the lineup, so that way if they get on base, 9-hole leads off an inning, he gets on base, and then you have the power gurus coming up right away in the order again. So I think that's an interesting dynamic too that Schwindel adds, because like you said, he's not just a pure power hitter. He's a high contact guy too that, to me, could do a lot of damage. I mean, he's been hitting 2 pretty much all the second half so far for the Cubs. To me, he's a guy that can thrive in a 2-hole because he gives you that high contact, get on base and get driven in, and the power. But maybe you feel okay hitting a guy like Schwindel in like a 5-hole, especially if he's protected by guys like Castellanos and Bryant. What are your thoughts on all of that? Because I really do feel like Schwindel, even for next season, maybe 2023, if he's still around, he goes into more of a reserve role. But who's to say in 2022 that he can't get 400 plate appearances in a season?
Right. I mean, that'll depend on performance. I think he's definitely going to get the opportunity, but he's a versatile hitter. I mean, we've seen him. I can't remember which game it was specifically, but he had a single through the right side that ended up scoring I think it was the tying run, where you could just see his goal when he came to the plate was hit the ball through the right side. And he went up and did it. And obviously that's just being a professional hitter. But I mean, the dude goes up there and he can do a lot of things. So there's I mean, obviously he's been great in the 2-hole, but there's no reason why he can't hit in the 5-hole. And even beyond that, just put him anywhere.
Yeah.
That's a great thing about Nico Horner too. You put him anywhere. You put him in the 2-hole, you put him in the 8, 9-hole if there's the DH. Why not? You get that's what, when we saw the Cubs playing really well, we saw that bottom of the order really rolling things back up to the top. And that's what made him super successful. And so if that can help jumpstart that, why not?
Yeah, 100%. And you brought up a great point, right, about Schwindel able to go to all fields. He's not just a pull guy. Tonight is a perfect example. This home run was completely to the opposite field and right. I think to the point where he thought it was going to be a fly out based on how it went off his bat, because he's like, I didn't get all that. He thought Harper's just going to run underneath it and catch it. And then Harper turns around and watches it go over his head. But again, he takes it opposite field. And then the double for him tonight was down the left field line. I got to catch a little bit at the beginning of Cubs Live, which is the post-game show on Marquee. Great, hopefully going to be friend of the program here in the future, Cole Wright. I believe Carlos Pena was on tonight too, at Placket. I love his Twitter handle. But they were talking about his swing and how, because of his length, and this maybe kind of reminds me a little bit of Bryant, but not as much of an uppercut on his swing as Bryant has. But just because of that long frame, his bat stays in the swing path for so much longer. that he's able to stay back on pitches, because of that length and tap things that other hitters probably aren't getting to just because of his size, because he's such a big dude too. So like, I think that's something too that goes underappreciated with a guy like Schwindel, because when you just have that natural ability because of the way you swing to keep your bat in the strike zone longer, you're just going to be a more successful hitter, and you're going to have, like you said, when you have a plan, I want to go opposite field here, you're more likely to do it because, again, more time for your bat to be on the ball is advantageous in baseball. That's just the nature of the beast. So I love everything, that Schwindel's done so far this season. Matt Duffy, a great game for him tonight. He was 3 for 5. I think that's absolutely worth mentioning in the leadoff spot too. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have a little something special about him in the morning, a little foreshadowing there. But, he's another guy like that. I sit here and I wonder, like, does he have a role in 2022? Like, and if he does, what is that role? So he's another guy too that did well tonight. But Joe, again, unfortunately, the Cubs lose. All things considered, not a terrible game from the Cubs. They clawed their way back multiple times. But I will turn it back over to you really quick. Do you have any final thoughts on this loss as the Cubs go for the series win tomorrow over Philadelphia?
Just, when I saw Trevor McGill coming in for the 9th inning, I wasn't super enthused. But, our options back there are just super limited. So there's not much you can do about it. It didn't surprise me that he got the loss, especially in that fashion. But It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Hey, this is like the one season where we can be like, well, we want them to win, and they have a good enough team to win. But, like, if they do lose, okay. We're still firmly in like the 8th or 9th draft position then for next year. And if Jed continues to do what Jed's done and what Kantrovitz seems to continue to do and pull out of his ass, you got to feel like they're going to get a really good player at 9 that's going to help them sooner rather than later. So all things considered, you just see where it goes. And a fun little factoid as well about tonight, just we mentioned Brennan Davis earlier in the show. Scott from Iowa dropping in our comments here. I'm hurting, but I still have faith. We hear you, friend. I'm hurting too because all my bets lost tonight because I rode with our boy from Scotty from Iowa, and I love it though, man. Hey, you hit the wisdom one yesterday, bud. So I don't blame you for wanting to run it back. I ran it with you. Didn't put a ton on it, but didn't hit. Oh well, shit happens. We keep things moving. But one thing I do want to kind of remind people that listen to our show is MILB TV is free for the rest of the season.
Oh, wow.
South Bend, Myrtle Beach, and Tennessee, I think, finish up this weekend, unfortunately. So you got a couple more nights to catch guys like Ed Howard, Jordan Wogu, friend of the program, and so many more. But the AAA season was extended all the way until, I believe, October 2nd or 3rd, which is just as long as the MLB season. So highly encourage people, if you want to watch Brennan Davis, and some of these other guys. Brendan Little is a name that up there as a relief pitcher. He might play a part of the 2022 Cubs bullpen next year. There's a lot of intriguing names nonetheless in AAA Iowa. Again, where guys like Rivas and Schwindel and Ortega and Wisdom played to start the season. There's a lot of intriguing names at the AAA level. So I highly recommend people, tune in. Alex Cohen is great on the call. Make sure you catch some Cubs baseball and, AAA, and, the more you know about the organization, the better you're going to feel going into 2022 is kind of my last thoughts on tonight's loss. But, Joe, we will go ahead. We will move forward. As we mentioned, the Cubs and Phillies are back at it again tomorrow for the rubber match of this series. The Cubs, for us in Chicago, we're even luckier. It's a 5:05 start tomorrow. So if you got an early bedtime ahead of Friday, you'll be in good shape because it'll be realistically over by like 8 o'clock. But at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia, these two teams square off once again. 670 the score, and Marquee Sports Network in Chicago. 94 WHIP, WTTM 1680, and NBC Sports Philadelphia if you happen to be in the Philadelphia market and are listening to us. Cubs starting pitcher tomorrow is the professor himself, Kyle Hendricks, the right-hander, 14-6 on the year with a 4.54 ERA and 122 Ks. I think this would actually be the first year in his career to finish above 4 ERA. If that number stays as high as it is right now. And right now for Philly tomorrow, it's TBD. So we don't know who's pitching. Could be a bullpen day. Maybe somebody they call up. Who knows? So Little hard to play matchups based on history and such, but Joe, nonetheless, I'll turn it back over to you, buddy, for a little bit of a preview for tomorrow, what you expect, and a fly the W pick.
I'm looking for Hendricks to finally get back to some ace stuff. He's had some bad outings recently, hasn't really been himself, but it'd be nice to win this series. And the Phillies are still going for a playoff spot. While they're on the outside looking in, they're still hunting for one. So it'd be nice to kind of bury him a little bit, even though it'd be helping out the Cardinals a little bit, whatever. But I think Hendricks will have a good day. And I know you said the Phillies are TBD, so picking a fly the W pick is playing matchups there doesn't really help. But I'm going to go with Ian Happ. Like you said, he did score a run today after getting at base by a hit by pitch. But I think hopefully he's hitting lefty and put one into the seats again.
I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, I mean, it would be cool if they can take 2 or 3 again. I will continue to plug your articles as much as possible because you wrote a great article about Jason Hayward's comments about, hey, we're playing even though we aren't going to win anything with a purpose because we can play spoiler to a lot of these NL playoff teams that we're seeing. Philadelphia, Cincinnati, they're going to see St. Louis for a ton of games now at the end of the month. Imagine totally ruining St. Louis's chances of making the playoffs. There's nothing that'll be more sweet to the Cubs fans this season than watching them cry all the way home in that boring city as the Cubs ruined their chances in the last effectively 7 games of the year, really. So you do want to see the Cubs still win. So I'm right there with you, man. I think it's going to be a good game. I would love to see Hendricks get back on his stuff, like you said. 6-7 strong innings out of him, I think would be sensational and lead to a Cubs series win, which would be cool and tough, especially because I hate the city of Philadelphia. I think it's an awful city. But nonetheless, I hear you on the, no good matchups, trying to figure out what's going to happen. As much as I want to pick Patrick Wisdom to go yard tomorrow and set the record as my fly the W pick, not feeling that great about it. I think it's going to take him a few games to get there again. But if he's in the lineup again, so this is a little bit of an asterisk, I'll go my safe pick being Frank Schwindel. But if he is in the lineup, I'm going to ride with Matt Duffy again because I think they really found something with him in that leadoff spot tonight. Like maybe he's a guy that literally earns himself a contract next year because of how he's hit in the leadoff spot. 3 for 5 is a great way to get this team going. He still scored 5 runs. It's not his fault that he gave up 6. Love what he did tonight. The power was there for him. I think that's his 4th home run with all of them coming in the last 3 weeks. Yeah. So I'm gonna roll with Matt Duffy for tomorrow, assuming he's in the lineup. If not, I'll ride on the legend of Frank Schwindel, who should be in the lineup tomorrow, as my safe fly the W pick then. But Joe, before we get out of here, I do want to remind everybody, Cubs on Tap is the official Cubs podcast of the On Tap Sports Network. You can check out all of our great work over at www.ontapsportsnet.com and at OnTapSportsNet on social media. Joe and I both have some very recent stuff out there. We'd love you to go read it and let us know what you think. In addition, you can follow the pod-specific accounts for us here at Cubs on Tap. We are at Cubbies, that's Cubbies on Tap. That's Twitter and Instagram. Joe is at Joe on Tap. I am at Loose on Tap on Twitter. And follow all of our other great panelists at Cody on Tap, at Juice on Tap, at Marty Wall, at The Riot 326, and everybody else that contributes here to Cubs. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks. Bears are in full swing of things. Everybody's calling for Nagy's head and Justin Fields to start. Our Bears on Tap guys actually going to go, if you are going to watch live, and unfortunately nobody watching what's live right now, it is a little late, but Bears on Tap, they're going to have a new podcast out tomorrow. They're running their live show right after we're done actually here on our On Tap social media accounts. Go listen to them. We also got Blackhawks starting up really soon. We're going to have some preseason games coming up at the beginning of October, and we also have a prospect tournament of 2 games coming up here on the 17th. Actually, that starts. So help me do my math. Friday, they will have a game. So, and then again, Bulls, they'll be fun and good this year. Go follow them as well. And yes, Cubs fans, we always have a Sox fan that we have to deal with and loathe at occasional times, but our Sox on Tap guys do a good job. So go ahead and bring them over to us as well. So once again, www.ontapsportsnet.com, at OnTapSportsNet on social media, the On Tap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Joe, it is always a pleasure talking with you, sir, even after a Cubs loss. Cubs lose to the Phillies in walk-off fashion by a final 6-5. Passed ball by Trevor Miguel in the bottom of the 9th effectively ended this one. Cubs were comeback kids all night. Wasn't enough, unfortunately. And we will be back tomorrow. We, the collective we here at Cubs on Tap, after the rubber match with the Phillies before the Cubs travel to go see the Brewers this weekend in Milwaukee. Joe, what do you say, bud? We gotta get out of here the only way we know how to.
Let's do it. Let's go Cubs.
Let's go Cubbies.